Six Flags Great Adventure has been getting screwed over. This park is a major tourist destination between two of the biggest cities in North America, Philadelphia and New York City, and is Six Flags' second most attended park right behind Six Flags Magic Mountain. And the fact that the additions since 2006 to the park have been pretty mediocre and subpar is quite unbelievable, seeing that this is the case. So speaking of 2006, let's flash back to then so I can give you a picture of what the park was back then. In 2006, arguably one of the best, if not the best, wooden roller coaster in the world, El Toro, opens at Six Flags Great Adventure. It's a huge hit, and the park is the most popular it's ever been, with Kingda Ka opening the year before that, boasting the stats of being the tallest and fastest coaster in the world. And on top of these new additions, they already had a B&M Hyper in Nitro, which is still regarded as one of the best steel coasters in the world as it stands today. Medusa, which was a pretty solid floorless steel coaster, and classic Six Flags clones such as Superman Ultimate Flight and Batman the Ride. And unlike a lot of other parks of the time, they boasted a very long history, having rides that have been there for a very long time, including Rolling Thunder, which was a dueling wooden coaster that had opened with the park, and Great American Scream Machine, which is a steel coaster that has a very long history. At this time in 2006, Six Flags Great Adventure was a must-go-to park for a lot of theme park enthusiasts, and it was regarded as one of the best theme parks in the world at this point, with two back-to-back editions of world-class attractions. So, what did Six Flags decide to do following this success? Let's take a look. The following year in 2007, nothing really new happens, which makes sense because you had 2 years back-to-back where you had major additions, so fair enough. In 2008, they opened the Dark Knight, which is an indoor Wild Mouse-style coaster based on the movie, The Dark Knight. Although the amount of theming on this ride is still kind of unprecedented for a Six Flags ride, at least for the time for sure, it wasn't really a great ride, but was a decent attraction to the park, and with being based on the new Dark Knight movie, I don't think too many people were too upset about this addition. 2009 rolls around and Six Flags surprisingly says, hey, we're actually making another coaster. That's crazy. I mean, we did just get the Dark Knight last year, which really isn't so much a coaster. It's barely really a coaster. It's a Wild Mouse, nothing really special, but we're getting another coaster already, which is insane. However, then they announced that it's going to take over Medusa, which was a steel floorless coaster already at the park. So, okay. So we're losing a coaster, getting a new one. All right. However, as it turns out, they just decide to repaint the track, make new parts, and put it back together the exact same way, and retheme it to the Superman villain Bizarro. So inevitably, people are kind of like, about this decision. However, when the ride opens, it comes with on-ride audio as well as a lot of practical effects, including mist and fire, which was really awesome for the time. I can tell you riding this thing when it first opened was really cool, and honestly, even though it was the exact same ride as Medusa, it had a whole new level of thrill to it with all these added effects. However, I'll tell you what, it didn't take very long for the effects to stop working. It was very shortly after that the audio really did not work anymore, and it would get staticky until eventually turning it off completely. They don't really do the fire anymore because they don't want to pay for the gas that it requires to shoot off those flames, and the mist even doesn't always work. So the effects are now gone, and it's basically just Medusa with a little bit of theming and some other signs of effects being there that are no longer there. 2010 rolls around and nothing really major comes out, but they do announce that the Great American Scream Machine is going to close. A classic ride that's been there for a very long time. It was very bumpy and had your head knock around on the restraints quite a bit, but it was still a classic ride and a lot of people loved it. So if you're replacing it, it better be something good. So 2011 rolls around and we find our replacement for the Great American Scream Machine. And it happens to be a B&M stand-up coaster themed to Green Lantern. Now it's safe to say people did not really like this ride because it's a stand-up coaster. Those are not fun. They're not comfortable, and quite frankly, I would have rather kept the Great American Scream Machine and had my head knocked around than have my nuts knocked around on Green Lantern. Now you might be saying, oh, stop complaining. You got another new coaster to this park. That's incredible that you're getting so many new coasters at the same park. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a new coaster. This is a coaster that they brought over from Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom, and it was not very liked there, so they brought it over here, and said, "Oh, look, it's a new ride." No, it's not. You just recycled it, and it's kind of embarrassing. So after the release of Green Lantern, for whatever reason, with its terrible reception, it seems like a lot of executives at Six Flags thought, oh, people at Great Adventure don't want coasters anymore, I guess. So let's just give them a bunch of flat rides. 2012 rolls around, we get Sky Screamer, which is a giant swing. I'll be honest, not a terrible addition for the park, but still nothing spectacular. 2013 rolls around and Six Flags decides to take the safari that was right next to the park that was a separately ticketed attraction and make it available to people actually in the main Great Adventure Park. Now, of course, this is a good decision and it increases the value of the Great Adventure Park, but it's not like it's a new experience that we couldn't have already got. Sure, we would have to pay a little bit more for it, but it's not like it's a completely new experience that we couldn't experience before. And then the same year in 2013, guess what closes? Rolling Thunder, which had opened with the park and had nearly 35 years of operation. People were devastated that this went. It was obviously very bumpy, and there was always this kind of joke going around that, just one time riding through the track, you would eventually just fall through. Of course, that never happened, but, it's just a shame to see it go, to be honest. So here's fingers crossed that the replacement for it will be good. 2014 rolls around and they do not replace Rolling Thunder. Instead, they go ahead and they add the Zumanjaro Drop of Doom, which is built right in the middle of Kingda Ka, making it the tallest drop ride in the world. Now, don't get me wrong, this was an awesome addition to the park. However, it took the pretty bad operations of Kingda Ka already, right? They're pretty slow operations because it's you gotta have a lot of safety checks and whatnot. And they made them longer because Kingda Ka cannot run when Zumanjaro is running, and Zumanjaro cannot run when Kingda Ka is running. So because they built it right in the middle, they slowed down the operation of Kingda Ka, and they already made Zumanjaro's operation slower right off the bat because it has to wait for Kingda Ka. So yeah, don't get me wrong, Kingda Ka and Zumanjaro are both great rides, but because of where they're built, they made each other worse by just being next to each other. All right, folks, so this is it. 2015, they finally bring in the ride that is going to replace Rolling Thunder, the ride that's been there since the beginning of the park. What's it going to be? It's El Diablo, a Super Loop coaster. Oh boy. Wow, that's a great addition right there. Definitely was well worth bringing in as a replacement for Rolling Thunder. Thank you so much, Six Flags. No, but seriously, you get rid of a dueling wooden coaster. Yeah, it was old, but a dueling wooden coaster that's been there since the beginning of the park, and you bring in a Super Loop. A Super Loop. You can go and ride a Super Loop at a carnival you pay $5 to get into. Like, yeah, this might be a taller one, but it's the same thing. And that's what you choose to replace Rolling Thunder with. Unbelievable. So, not counting El Diablo as a new coaster, which I don't, then the last time we actually got a coaster in this park was Green Lantern, which was 5 years ago. And if we're talking about actual new coasters, because Green Lantern was just an old ride from Kentucky Kingdom brought over, if we're talking about new coasters, then the actual last one was The Dark Knight 8 years ago, because Bizarro was just a reskin of Medusa. So going into 2016, it has been 8 years since we actually got a new coaster, and that new coaster was a Wild Mouse. Six Flags realizes this, though. They're like, hey, Great Adventure, we got you. We're going to get you a new coaster. I'm like, yes, a new coaster. And then they announce it's the Joker, a 4D free fly roller coaster. This was the big addition to bring all the fans back. Oh my God. I mean, listen, it's not a terrible addition. It's not a terrible ride. But it is not the big coaster that this park has been needing. It's not. 2017 rolls around, and we get a new dark ride, Justice League Battle for Metropolis. Once again, not a terrible addition, but not the addition this park needs. And then just recently, in 2018, they brought in Cyborg Cyber Spin, which is basically just a cool-looking top spin ride. And apparently, if you actually ride it, it's nothing special, really. It just looks cool, but it's nothing special actually riding it. So now, as you can see, Great Adventures has been getting a slew of flat rides or mediocre coasters for the past 12 years about. And you would think it'd be time for Six Flags to realize, okay, it's about time we get these guys another big coaster, because obviously they're a huge tourist destination. They used to be one of the most well-renowned and most popular parks in the world back when El Toro and Kingda Ka opened. We got to get back to those glory days. Let's give them a big edition for 2019. So what do they announce for 2019?
Six Flags Great Adventure introduces DC's Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth, the world's tallest pendulum ride. You'll plummet 17 stories at speeds up to 75 miles an hour.
Oh, okay. So another flat ride. All right. Well, I mean, listen, it's obviously not the big coaster we were hoping for, the big addition we were hoping for, but hey, at least it's a unique ride. It's setting records, the tallest pendulum ride. That's pretty cool.
Coming to Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, now open year-round. DC's The Joker, the world's tallest pendulum ride at 17 stories with speeds of 75 miles an hour.
Are you serious? So So not only do you not give us the major edition that we've been needing for 12 years now, but you don't even give us an original ride. Wow. Okay, listen, this video has been going on for long enough. You get the point. Six Flags Great Adventure has been absolutely screwed over by the Six Flags Corporation, and really it deserves a whole lot better, especially considering it's one of their most attended parks. And Six Flags, man, step it up. Honestly.